Hi, welcome to the Easy October Autism webinar. I'm Jill Shoemaker.
And I'm Elizabeth Ingram.
And we have Charity Sanders also joining us as she's typing some comments. So we are just opening the floor for any questions. So when we see some people join us, we'll answer any questions. Charity's typing a question right now, or a comment, just if we see anybody come in, log in. Well, as we're waiting for some viewers to join us, some things about the Easy Autism team. We provide services for students on the autism spectrum that have to have a medical diagnosis or an educational diagnosis. Usually a referral is put in first before we go out to the school districts in our co-op. Eastern Illinois area of special ed serves 28 school districts. And as of right now, I think we're about in 14 of them, maybe about half of them that all three of us go out and service into those schools. We provide consultation, we do observations, we make materials for students, including schedules, social narratives, video models, any kind of any materials that that may be helpful, any visuals. Usually when we go out, one of the first recommendations that we always make, we want to know what kind of visuals you're using, as students with the autism spectrum learn best by visuals and being taught, given visual directions for anything. And that can be with pictures or written for your kiddos that can read and are higher functioning. Usually the first thing we say is, what visuals are you using? Do you have a schedule? What does that schedule look like? As most students do better with schedules, as it helps them be more independent. It helps with the structure of their day. They know what to expect and what is happening next. And it also helps with transition and decreases anxiety, knowing what is coming up. We have a few more viewers, it looks like. Let's see if we have any other questions yet. If you have a question, if you just want to type in the comments, and then Charity will get our question to us.
And you need to be logged in to be able to comment. We had a couple questions about that. You are able to view us if you're not logged in, but if you would like to comment, then you need to log in.
How should we take grades, letters, or pass fail?
I think that's dependent on sorry, if I'm not sure if you guys all saw that, but it says, how should we take grades, letters, or pass fail? I guess that's dependent on the student and what grade level and what their capabilities are. Each student is different and you need to assess that. And I would make it a team decision on how you want to do that. I know that I have a high schooler that we do letter grades for, because that's what works for him. And that's also what his, their parents may want too. Parents also have a say-so in it. But then I have a kid in elementary who they want a pass or fail. So I think it's very dependent on what that student's capabilities are, what those expectations look like, and you need to look at what they are capable of doing. I know that's not really a clear-cut answer, but it's kind of very dependent on the student. And without knowing your student more, it's kind of hard to give you an exact answer.
And then just kind of to go along with that, it just depends on how many accommodations they have. Like I had a student and they weren't able to complete a lot of the activities. They could only complete like 2 or 3 of the activity. Like if it was a worksheet with 20 questions, they were only capable of doing a few of them. So it was really hard to do a grade based on 3 problems instead of 20 problems like a typical worksheet. So we had to take that into consideration with her grades.
That was a great question. there any other questions?
Is high functioning with reading, spelling, but limited comprehension, so I'm having a hard time with the reading grade level. I modified everything like the other grades.
So, like, could you give us a little more information, like for the reading and spelling, like what is he required to do, and kind of how you're doing that?
Anything that we can do. And you might look at if, oh, sorry. The question again is, she said that anything wrote he is able to do. If you guys didn't see that before that, anything that requires processing, you get nothing, which is very common with our students with autism. They're able to do the rote, counting 1 through 20 or whatever, but then when you have to apply it and do some addition or subtraction or do story problems, that processing is harder for them. Or they know their sight words, but they read a sight word book and they aren't able to do the comprehension. You might have to look at if his reading and spelling are higher, you may look at doing something where they get a letter grade for reading and spelling, but the comprehension part, maybe it's pass or fail, or breaking down using visuals to help with that comprehension. And instead of him, if it's a processing issue where he may know the information but he can't write it out, or he can't answer the question, giving him choices, or providing that visual, writing it out on a whiteboard and he chooses, those kinds of things. And that might help. And it might be more of a pass fail grade then at that point. Does that help at all?
Anything that requires processing.
Sorry, I had to move the camera a little bit so we could see the questions a little better. It says he does not do well with multiple choice. What if you give him like just 2 choices and it's maybe a visual or just 2 choices in words? Does that help?
So what if, like Jill mentioned, if you displayed it differently, not so much like typed on a piece of paper where he can physically circle, if you're holding up and showing him the 2 options, and then he can just point or take it from you. So something where he can't just go and circle, giving him more visuals to physically pick the answer.
So you would have like a picture of which animal was big in the story. Obviously your kid is probably a little bit higher functioning than this, but just an example. Was it the cat or was it the dog? And then he points to it, kind of thing. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and you'll see some success with it. Sorry.
Do you take him to another country? That's what I'm doing.
It would depend on the situation. I'm thinking not necessarily another room, but I think if you're going to try like physically holding up the options for him, you're going to want to probably pull him to the side at least. Depending where his desk is, if it's on the side, maybe you or an aide or whoever it is that's working with him can pull up a chair next to him. So I guess it just depends on how he is in the classroom. But I wouldn't say necessarily take him to a different room, no.
And what if you could use your, like if you had the paper and you were doing the reading comprehension, if maybe you cut out the answers, like you know how you have your A, B, C, or D, take away that A, B, C, or D, and then just have the pieces of paper and then they're out. I mean, it still kind of look like a worksheet form maybe, but he's just picking the pieces of paper. Maybe that would help as well. And I do know who you are.
And another option, kind of going along with what Joe was saying, that would be a little less time consuming if you do have the worksheet made out. And if it's just the options A, B, then instead of writing them all out, you could just hold up an A and a B and tell him to pick those from your hands instead of circling on the worksheet. That might be, if you're crunched for time, that might be another helpful way, is just display him the letter options instead of the whole answer.
We know you will try anything. That's why we love you. Keep asking the questions. They're great. We just left. Again, you know me, I'm a big pusher for visuals. Is he able to come up with the sentences? Like if he tells you, can he tell you a sentence using the vocab word, or he just can't write it? Sorry, there's a little delay in our video broadcasting too. So if there seems to be a lot of long pauses, that is why. And sometimes there could be an issue with the generalization. You know, we always stress that too. He might be able to do things at home, but can't do them at school, or vice versa. They might be able to do something at school, but they're not doing that skill at home. So there could be that going on. Is he able to, like if you gave a visual to go with that vocab word, could you give me an example of like a vocab word maybe that he's working on? You asked if that is common. It is common that they can't generalize skills. That's one thing that students with autism have really struggle with. They might be able, a great example is at home, they may know how to brush their teeth. They know the routine. It's a, you know, kind of a routine that they have every day. They get their toothbrush, they get their toothpaste in the same bathroom, whatever. But then you go spend the night at a hotel and they don't know how to brush their teeth. Or a great example, I had a student the other day who they were working on sight words and he could read the words over and over and over. He knew them. But then when you took the word and put it on the whiteboard, he couldn't read it because he couldn't generalize that skill. He only knew that word on that flashcard. He didn't know it on the whiteboard. He didn't know it when he read his sight word book. So that's a great example of how they're not able to generalize. They only know that skill with that person or on that card or at that time. So that's very, very common. So an example you said of hibernate as an example of a vocab word. So I would take a word, I would pair that with a visual of what hibernate is. It's a bear in the cave or whatever, and he's hibernating. And so, and see that he understands that word. Can he give you that word? And then, you're so good with all the questions. So I would work on that visualization first, and then is he able to take words and put them in order to create a sentence? Or, I mean, I get it's hard to not know your student, but
No, keep going.
like if you kind of came up with a sentence at first, like the bears hibernate in the winter, or you could even the bears hibernate, something simpler. Could he take the words and put them in, form the sentence if he already had the words?
And I think you mentioned it. And just make sure he can comprehend that vocab first, because if he can't comprehend it, then that might be why he can't write it in a sentence. So like Jill said, with the visual, even if it's just him picking out visually what that vocab word means, then that would be the first step before he would be able to understand it to write it in a word.
Okay, damn it. So you wrote that you have not had success with that with the words. So I have to brainstorm. Yeah, with putting the words in order. Like if they're given the words and not putting them in order. Do you think there's an understanding of the vocab words? And you said that he, like, if you come up with a sentence, would he repeat it? Because you says he has echolalia. Don't let me forget to answer that question. Okay.
So he understands the vocab words and he understands grammar and sentence structure. He just can't put it all together. Mm-hmm. Correct? Is that how you're understanding it?
Yes, that's how I'm understanding it. And he will repeat because he has echolalia. So it doesn't, it's not really. Right. What if you wrote out a sentence and then he just filled in the blank with hibernate to start with, and then he can start adding more words? Or like, can you do like a fill in the blank? And I think it goes back to that generalization that you kind of asked, how do we improve generalization to school? It's taking those skills that you know that he has mastered at home, or say it was in your classroom, but he doesn't do it in the general education classroom or whatever. You just keep giving multiple examples, have access to it in multiple settings, and then multiple opportunities. So if I was teaching, give me something, like the word red, then I'm going to show it on the flashcard. I'm going to show it on the whiteboard. When we go down the hallway and we see the word red or see the color red, I'm going to say, oh, look, it's the color red. So it's those kinds of. Yeah. Sorry. Can you think of anything else?
That's a tough one.
So I think generalization, again, is just creating those opportunities. And another one that we work on a lot is like preposition. So the student masters on, he knows what on is. So it's go put this on the shelf, put the book on the table. And so you kind of stress those words too.
And another thing we like to stress with generalization is getting the other school staff involved, especially with social skills. So if they're working on greetings, then have the lunch lady work on greetings with him, the principal in the hallway. So it's not just you working on all those skills throughout the school, it's everyone in the school also.
And you said, going back to the vocabulary, you said he won't check to see if that makes sense to him. To be honest, that's really hard to come up with some ideas on what else we could do with him without knowing him. Maybe we'll brainstorm some ideas and get back to you on that one, Jennifer. Charity might have an idea for us. Hold on.
behind the
Just also keep
scenes.
Communication with parents that he's not academically.
And-
You're not seeing that.
And she said to just keep communication open with parents, that you're not seeing those things at school, and that what they're seeing at home is not the same as what you're seeing. And right, so there's just no surprises, and that they understand what is actually going on at school. Could they, like if you're working on the word hibernate, would they be able to like videotape him working on creating a sentence with that word for you? And then maybe you could see how they approach it and maybe the words that they're using to get him to create that sentence. What's I'm not familiar with IXL, are you?
No, I'm not.
I know Raz Kids a little bit. I do have another student that does use that program. I don't know it very well. It's something I can find out some more information. I'm pretty sure that the other district likes it for the student. He is oh my gosh, how old is he? He's in middle school, and he's academically he's probably at like first, second grade. And I'm not familiar with IXL at all. What current programs are you using with him? Have you tried a work for board? Sometimes that keeps them more motivated because they have to work for so long, and then they get their reinforcer and they know it's a good visual to say, okay, I have to do this, this, and this, or I get my penny or my star, whatever it is, and then I'm going to get a little 2-minute break. Sometimes those are helpful.
Yeah. Or if it's a larger activity, a lot of times with like math facts worksheet, you can do like a mini schedule to break down, like he can complete problems 1 through 10 and then check it off, or earn a work or a penny, and then problems 11 through 20, then when he checks that off. So it's just breaking down the activity even more to keep him motivated to finish the activity. Instead of saying, here's 40 problems, you just break them each down. And I've also seen, like, if it's a worksheet, I've seen it a lot with math facts at the end. So if there's like 20 facts at the end of the row, there's a little box on the worksheet that he can check saying, okay, that row's finished, go to the next row, and then just check the box at the end.
Oh, we have another joiner. Hi, Mrs. Schultz. Squeeze hands at the center.
I also use sensory breaks like smartboard.
That's also a great idea. As Mrs. Schultz says, she uses a lot of sensory breaks. Those are good to help with keeping attention as well. Any of those brain breaks help a lot. And there's Go Noodle, which is a great one website that it's free for educators, and they have all kinds of really great brain breaks on there.
And just a little note about brain breaks. Sometimes we see brain breaks where they're still kind of requiring them to use their brain for academic wise. I don't remember what it was. She was having them say math facts or something, and that's not so much a brain break. You kind of want a brain break to be more fun, physically moving activity, get them out of their chair, get their giggles out, instead of a typical academic skill.
So I said Go Noodle is a great resource for that. The OTs really like that one too. It's just
Probably.
one. Oh, that's a great idea. But Mrs. Schultz just wrote about using a laundry basket to put a weighted item in for them to push while walking in the hallway. That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. That would probably help with some of the issues during transition walking in the hallway.
Or a weighted book bag's also.
And she does have another student that uses a weighted book bag.
Yeah.
This particular student would like probably that pushing and that deep pressure that way as well. Does anybody have any other questions? Miss Jennifer, I know you have some more. Oh, goodness. And Miss Jennifer, that would go back to some of that. Well, it could be the rapport he has with the student or generalization as well on why it works for some teachers and not the other teachers. Mrs. Schultz, on your question on sometimes it's monkey see, monkey do, how can I break this? That's difficult, especially in your classroom, as we know all too well. And I do agree some of it is monkey see, monkey do. And I actually videotaped the other day and one kid took off and then your friend that we're talking about took off the other way. So a lot of it is probably monkey see, monkey do. I think a lot of it is just teaching those expectations, rewarding for those positive behaviors and teaching those appropriate social skills and having that peer like one of your other kiddos. I'm laughing at your smiley face, Mrs. Schultz. If you try to use like the little boy's friend that he loves so much, if you use him as a good peer model, maybe you can say, oh, you need to be like Bob because he's sitting in his seat. This makes him happy when you sit in your seat or something like that. That might help him too. Obviously, you wouldn't use as many words with him, but you know what I mean. And Charity added she added that repetition can be trouble, but keep reinforcing the positive behavior. That's what's important is when you do see those positive behaviors that you are rewarding them as much as you can. And sometimes that's an edible little food, or some do okay with just the praise. You have to know your kiddo. Showing Bob. Okay, so first of all, Jennifer wrote, parents don't think pictures are needed. What else could we do? Could we provide parents with research showing that visuals are important? I think in this particular student that maybe there's not a diagnosis of autism, if I'm correct. But maybe just showing how pictures in general can be beneficial for people, or showing that students all learn differently and some learn visually. Like I know I learn better visually than I do auditory. And so maybe if we could just find some kind of research to share with parents, or do you guys have any other ideas? Yeah, I think research is your best bet with just showing how helpful these are. Maybe your speech therapist has some information too. I know he's not really using PECs per se, but I know there's a lot of research out there on how PECs is research based, and it's been very helpful in getting students to talk. So obviously he is using some communication, but just showing those visuals are important. And
Mrs. Schultz, that's something that we say a lot. A lot of times people say, oh, well, they know their schedule. Oh, they don't need a visual schedule. And that's the example we say. Well, as an adult, you know your schedule, but could we take your phone calendar away from you and would you be good the rest of your life? And no, I don't think anybody would. I would freak out today if my calendar was off of my phone. So that's a perfect example that we tell to adults.
Good job, Mrs. Schultz. Mrs. Schultz, on yours question about, do you think a video model showing Bob making good choice or showing my behavior kiddo making good choices might help? Yes, I think so. Maybe we do one of both of them sitting there making good choices since he loves his friend so much. That might help. And Charity's typing something right now and has some great information too. Sorry. And Miss Jennifer, the video modeling might be something that could be helpful for you guys as well. Mm-hmm. And again, showing that research, video modeling can also help with generalization of skills. So that's really good. And there is a lot of research out on it as well.
We talked about that in the email this morning.
With Miss Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
If this is the same Jennifer.
It is.
We don't say last names.
It's my friend who's
on our chat.
Of course we can, Mrs. Schultz. I will be in district tomorrow and then probably next week a lot. I've been kind of slacking, so I will get there. I'll check in on you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. You too, Mrs. Schultz. Miss Jennifer has some really good questions. She's making us work today. So she writes, how can we tell if he is struggling with the concept or if it's easy? How do we assess this? So I'm assuming you're saying the responses are the same no matter what. So you're saying how to tell if it's too easy and he's bored versus if he does not understand the concept. I would try to do some things maybe in discrete trial and see if he's able to answer those. I guess, could you give us maybe some examples of something he's struggling with or maybe too easy?
And are you seeing behaviors either way?
So the responses are the same no matter what. So I'm assuming yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an example of a concept maybe? And then we can maybe talk about it and walk through it. Did basic regrouping in math with addition. So I'm assuming that you're working on that. You began to push, squeeze, jump, and make noises. But it's hard for you to assess if this is too easy and he's bored or if it's too difficult. So were you working on a complete worksheet or were you just What did that look like, I guess? Okay.
So it's more just frustration, not wanting to do the work because he is capable of doing the work.
I would try on the whiteboard one problem. I would try again with that work for board, and maybe he does 5 problems and he earns a half of a Starburst or Skittle, or he earns 2 minutes on the iPad or whatever it might be. Started writing nonsense words. And working on some of that to give that motivation, like, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to get this. It has a little bit of buy-in when you have a paycheck at the end. Just like us, if I wasn't getting paid, I probably wouldn't come to work every day because if I wasn't getting a paycheck, but knowing I'm going to get it paid when I come, that's why I come.
And even if you are introducing for the first time to him, you can, what we like to call is preload. So depending what kind of workflow you're using, if you're having 5 slots and then he earns something, the first few times if he's very frustrated, you can already have it loaded with 4 on there. And so he only has to earn 1. And then once he completes that problem, then he earns his reward. And then the next time, maybe you have 3 already loaded where he has to work for 2. So that kind of builds up his motivation instead of starting with, oh my gosh, I have to do 5 before I get anything. So that might be an idea also.
And I know that usually writing on a whiteboard is a little bit different because it's more fun with the marker and it's different than doing a pencil. But is he doing it, like if you gave him manipulatives, would he be more likely to do it instead of doing a writing task or doing it in shaving cream or something like that where it's a little bit more hands-on? Would he be more willing to participate? Oh, goodness. What references do you recommend for further reading?
I'd need my notes at my computer.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know off the top of my head. And
Right.
we have all kinds of books in our library too that that Liz could bring to you and we could check out. That would be no, Jill. So manipulatives maybe, and apparently he doesn't like manipulatives.
Because he takes them apart, I'm guessing.
My guess is he throws them or he gets mad maybe.
I know he takes pins apart.
Oh.
So that might be
why. Yeah. Well, yeah, it'd be a no on manipulatives. Do you have specific things you're looking for references? Like, do you want it on working with math, or do you just want like autism in general, or social skills, or
like work completion?
Yeah, we have all kinds of books. If you check out our video of the library on our YouTube channel, you can see our library.
So yeah, just let us know a little bit more specific on what references, and then I can bring you some or send you some.
Can you just, we'll be right there, Miss Jennifer. She wishes. Laughing. Do you have any other questions? You've been great. Hi, welcome.
Ms. Rominger.
Miss Jennifer, how many people are with you? Suzanne, we're just kind of answering any questions that you may have. So if you have any, just go ahead and type and we will try to answer them the best we can. Have any of you guys been to our intervention in service before? It talks about all the different interventions that sometimes we recommend. Very interesting, Miss Jennifer. Definitely want to meet this student. We held an intervention workshop in service last
In
year.
the spring, I think.
Yeah, so I was just seeing if anybody had been a part of it. We are not holding another one this year, but that doesn't mean we won't next year. And we can still provide you with the different interventions that we use. We have a nice sheet that has a description of all the interventions and kind of what they look like and what they mean, if that was helpful, if that would be helpful. We have an upcoming in-service on Wednesday, November 16th. We're doing teaching social skills, including the use of the iPad in the morning, and then a make and take for social narratives, video bottles, and power cards. So if you're coming to that, bring your laptop. And
We had a lot of positive feedback from our last make and take. You bring your own computer. You can borrow one of ours if you need to, and we help you work through Boardmaker or whatever it is you're wanting to make, and then we can print and cut and laminate it, Velcro, whatever you need, all here for you, so that you leave that day with it.
And a color printer, which
yes.
is exciting because I know a lot of you don't have access to that. Oh, good, Jennifer. I'm glad to see you. See you in November in the morning. Don't forget, you can ask some questions then too, if you think of some from now till a few weeks. I think we may have a new person, so if you just joined us, please feel free to ask any questions.
Or just comment so we know that you're here.
Yes, Miss Jennifer, you did make our brains work hard, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. Anything for you. We're still school just now. 2 more days. It's almost the weekend. Woo woo. Everybody survived parent-teacher conferences. That's always hard. And it's almost November already. And again, if you just joined us, I apologize. There is a little delay in our video feed. So if it takes a while, seems like there's a really long pause. Sometimes it's because of our delay. Some of the topics you missed, Miss Jennifer just asked basically some questions on how to get our kids to be more motivated, to work more on attention and focus. We suggested work for boards, doing some sensory breaks, brain breaks. We suggested Go Noodle.
And Mom had mentioned that he could do some skills at home, but he wasn't able to do them at school. And so we talked about generalization around the school, getting all of the school staff involved with that to help him generalize those schools in all settings.
We also talked about some comprehension questions and how can you address those, because he's not always able, like if you give him a multiple choice test, he's not always able to pick it, even if you narrow it down to 2. So we talked about like alternate ways of showing that, whether it be presenting it in visuals or covering up the ABCD and just having, what was your suggestion? Oh, I said like you could cut out the words and then they could choose which one. Liz had suggested like, okay, just having an A or B and he just points to it. The answer is A or the answer is B, those kinds of things. And Jennifer, I hope you saw Charity's comment. The next webinar will be December 7th at 2:30 as well. And just so you know, I think we won't be using YouTube Live at that time, but we will send out the information on how to log on and access the webinar again, just like we did this time.
We're going to try different ways and see which one we like best.
Well, welcome, Miss Suzanne's Classroom Aids. If you guys have any specific questions, be sure to type it in so we can see the question. And we also talked about our autism library. We do have a library of resources ranging from social skills, autism and sexuality, to toilet training, to comic strip conversations. We have adapted books. I think what else is in there? We have so much information. We even have some videos.
We have everything you could think of.
Right. So, and we do allow those to be checked out to school districts. So we often check those out to people.
And Jill mentioned earlier, if you subscribe to our Easy Autism team on YouTube, there should be a previous video of a quick tour of our library. It was our practice run of a webinar, but you kind of get an idea of everything that we have in there that would also be available for you to borrow.
And Jennifer just asked a really good question. How do I go about checking out books from your library? You can either contact the autism consultant that is assigned to your school district, and we can help you with that if you need that figured out. And we can get the books to you and have them checked out and deliver them to you. Or you're more than welcome, if you're around here and somebody's in the office, you can come check out what you want. Mm-hmm. And we do have a list, so we might be able to even, that we could just email that to you if you want to say, look at the list and say, I'm pretty sure we have it on file anyway, somewhere we'd have to look for it. But you could go through and say, oh, hey, I'm interested in this book. Can I check that out? So the office is open till 4. So I'm sure, Jennifer, that's hard to kind of get over here sometimes, but
I know our secretary, if you're an early person, I know our secretary is here. Is it 6:30?
Yes.
So I don't know if that would ever be an option if you were able to come before school.
Well, you're right down,
but probably the easiest option would be to email your consultant, which is me, you're the Jennifer I'm thinking of, with kind of specific what kind of resources you were wanting, and then I can look through the library and pick some good stuff out and then let you know some options and then bring them to you.
But I'm pretty sure that we do have a list in our Google Drive. I just have to find it. We had our secretary that we had last year has retired, and I know she had that everywhere. I just have to find it.
Or a new secretary can help us.
This is true.
Because she's great.
She's amazing.
Because I think I'm coming to see you next week, Jennifer.
Oh, and that would be a good time to bring some books or videos or whatever she may need. And too, if like Liz wasn't coming over, it's something she can always talk to Debbie about and say, hey, can you take these over there when you know, sometimes Debbie's going over there quicker, sooner before us, or I know Jill goes over there a lot for OT. If that's something, we do that a lot of times too. We'll check in with the other itinerants and see, hey, when are you going over there? Can you take this with you? Is there anything I need to know that I haven't asked you? Let's see. I think you know us. I would say push visuals as much as you can, whether that's pictures or written. Each kiddo is different. If you have kids that can read, write it out. If not, have as many visuals you can, whether that's through board maker or real pictures, and knowing that each kid is different, that some respond better to the real picture, some respond to, you know, like the board maker pictures. Just knowing your kid. Small details I left out. Did the mini schedule help him with use in the bathroom? Do you think it's hard? I mean, we don't know the kid. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. I'm glad it helped. And I think that's a great example to give to parents and say, you know what, I created this mini schedule because we were having issues in the bathroom. We were having behaviors. Ever since we used the visual, it has decreased. I agree. You probably do need a schedule for everything because they learn visually. So I think Liz concurs with us. So anytime you can create a visual, that's helpful. Mini schedules are a lifesaver. It breaks that activity down or those expectations, and it decreases anxiety, and they know what to expect of them and what's coming next. Does Miss Suzanne's class have any questions or comments? Or any using have anything that they are using that works for them? Miss Jennifer, how are the transitions? Like in the hallway when there's a lot of people in there, or just transitioning in between activities? Are the transitions okay? Transitions are okay. Well, that's good. Would you say your biggest concerns is work completion? He doesn't understand personal space. Well, I think you could do video models for that, social stories or social narratives as they call them. You could do the hula hoop, put the hula hoop around them so they can, that gives them that, to teach them that visual
around them.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, and he likes to run into classrooms of other teachers too, is that when he's transitioning, or is it he's just in class and he takes
He
off?
wants to get out of work, and so he went to another classroom.
Is this, I think I might have heard about. I'm going to use the video. Thought about a hula hoop. Good. You're on the right track. And I'm thinking that if I know right, he is there a stop sign on the door and that he may take it off and still run out the door? Is that correct? I think that if it's correct that he had the stop sign up and then which shows it, which is really good using that visual. Maybe put a stop sign like on somebody else's door, because it sounded like he would stop. It was, and I could be thinking of the wrong kid, but the stop sign was up until he wouldn't leave the door, but then he would pull it off, just to buy you some time and try teaching that, and maybe writing a social story that goes with it. That might help, or the video model that might go with it too. Which, by the way, I love that he stops because he sees the stop sign on the student. But then he takes it off and goes. Yes, I love it. And I think, too, when you come next to the in-service in November, you'll learn some other ways to teach social skills. We have some good ideas and some apps to share and stuff. So I think it will be good. We have about 5 more minutes, so if anybody has any other questions or comments, that would be great. Miss Jennifer, does your student have Does your student have like a high interest in like a character or something? Like I used to have a student who loved Hercules, and so I would use a power card for him, and it was, Hercules always has nice hands and nice words. Sometimes he gets mad, but he still remembers to use his nice hands and nice words. It's kind of like a social story, but it's using that high interest character in making and working on those behaviors. So I don't know if that would be something that would be beneficial for him or not. And it was great for me because I got to the point where I could just show a picture of Hercules and he'd be like, nice hands, nice words. And so it kind of worked great for us.
And that's something, Jennifer, I mentioned an email to you this morning. It was lengthy, so you probably haven't got to it yet. But what's really nice about the power cards is, of course, that it's visual for them, but it's the character that's telling them what to do and not so much the teacher. And because everything's always, us as a teacher telling them what to do, but the power card is, no, Luke Skywalker says da 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 da. So it's the character telling them what to do, which helps in some situations.
And because they want to be like that character. So
like I have a student who looks up to the football players, the high school football players, because they help out at recess time. And so we made a power card with the one specific football player on it saying he does this to be safe, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought that was a really neat one.
And so you said you would love to use power cards, but he doesn't have a character he likes, which that makes it harder. But you can use power cards with other kids. That's good. And I'm sure Liz would love to bring you some books. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? It's Charity. Yes, keep up the good work. You're doing amazing, all of you. And
these are really good questions.
There. We appreciate all your hard work and dedication that you guys do day in and day out. Have a good night, and thanks for all the questions. If you guys have any questions about how to get the autism team into your school for a student that has a medical or an educational diagnosis of autism, you can contact any of us. You can go to the best way is to go to our EASY website page. It's www.easy.com. And if you click on about us, programs, autism, it'll go to our webpage, and then you can see all our contact information and our names. So
have a good evening.
Thank you.